Imagine a future where every human on Earth speaks exactly the same language. The lights of global diversity fading out, leaving us with a single, homogenized way of thinking. What exactly would we lose? Right now, humanity communicates using approximately 7,168 distinct living languages. Looking closely at the data in this report, 40 linguists like Noam Chomsky have long posited the theory of universal grammar, the idea that all humans share innate, underlying structural rules for language. But the extreme variations we see in syntax, grammar, and sound across the globe prove that human cognition is highly adaptable. When languages homogenize, we lose unique auditory architectures. The Khoisan languages of Southern Africa, for instance, utilize complex click consonants that are entirely absent from European or Asian languages. Forcing human thought through a single linguistic framework creates a bottleneck. It permanently narrows our collective capacity to conceptualize the world. Language death rarely happens overnight. It is a slow, generational erosion. When a dominant language becomes necessary for jobs, education, and social mobility, parents naturally prioritize it for their children. A language reaches a critical state called moribundity when children are no longer learning it as their native tongue. They might passively understand their parents, but they cannot speak it themselves. Within a few decades, the language relies entirely on the elderly. When the last fluent speaker passes away, the language dies. This brings us to a core scientific concept known as linguistic relativity, or the Sapir-Whorf Hypothesis. While the strictest version of this idea is debated, empirical evidence strongly supports its moderate interpretation. The structure of a language actively influences how its speakers remember and perceive their surroundings. If our language structures our thoughts, then a language's extinction erases a specific way of perceiving the universe, a unique cognitive paradigm that can never be replicated. Consider the Australian Aboriginal language Gugu Yimithir. Speakers do not use relative directions like left or right. They rely entirely on absolute cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. To speak it fluently, a person must maintain a constant internal compass. This grants users a highly calibrated spatial memory and orientation that English speakers simply do not possess. Or look at evidentiality in Tariana. Speakers must grammatically indicate whether they saw it happen, heard it, or inferred it. Truth is built directly into the grammar. This cognitive mapping extends to the natural world through traditional ecological knowledge. Language and ecological survival are deeply intertwined. In highly biodiverse regions like Papua New Guinea, indigenous languages contain incredibly complex, hyper-specific taxonomies of local plants, animals, and weather patterns. Biologists and linguists are finding that losing these highly localized vocabularies means losing access to ethnopharmacological remedies and ecological management techniques that modern science hasn't even discovered yet. We are losing entirely distinct systems for processing time, space, and nature. It is a severe reduction in human intellectual diversity. Current biolinguistic research uses fMRI technology to observe the physiological brain. The data shows different languages wire our neural pathways in notably different ways. Navigating multiple languages directly enhances executive function and builds cognitive reserve, the brain's ability to improvise and solve problems. A transition to a monolingual human species points to a collective decline in our overall cognitive resilience. The late MIT linguist Ken Hale spent his career documenting endangered languages and understood the immense scale of this intellectual tragedy. He compared allowing a language to die to dropping a bomb on the Louvre. It erases millennia of highly curated, localized human genius in a single generation. For modern linguists, mere documentation is no longer the goal. Simply recording audio and printing dictionaries cannot keep a language breathing. The focus is now on active revitalization. Researchers are deploying artificial intelligence and a technique called few-shot learning to build accurate translation tools for indigenous languages that lack massive written datasets. The objective is to create living digital domains. By building localized operating systems and social platforms, endangered languages gain spaces where they can actually be used in daily, modern life. We have historical proof that linguistic resurrection is possible. Hebrew went from being entirely extinct as a spoken vernacular to the vibrant national language taught in classrooms like this one. Linguistic diversity is not a barrier to global communication. It is a vital reservoir of human adaptability and ingenuity that we must protect.